Hey everybody, this is Mr. Fleischman. I wanted to make this video for anybody who may be having trouble with their checkpoint 2 in FracCalc, whether you're at Shorewood or anywhere else in the world. Checkpoint 2 is a pretty challenging jump from checkpoint 1. So let's take a look at what it calls for, okay? Your main method now accepts input from the user multiple times until they type quit. Okay, that's not so bad. I'm not going to cover that in this particular video. We'll probably cover that in a part 2 here coming up. So let's talk about the result that produce answer should return now. For checkpoint 1, it should just return the second operator, or the second operand, excuse me. So if this was your input you passed in to produce answer, it would just return 4 and 5/6. Okay, so basically it wanted some functionality within your produce answer method that was able to parse this string into 3 pieces that we're going to find useful later. So now that we've done that, we're not going to delete any code we've done. We're just going to simply add more. Okay, so we're going to parse apart the second operand even more. So let's take a look at what they want. Okay, so let's take a look at produce answer must now demonstrate you have parsed fractions properly by returning a string that describes each component of the second operand. So again, we're just kind of focusing on that second operand. So we're going to talk about the whole number portion. We're going to talk about the numerator, and we're going to talk about the denominator. And do you see these special cases? If there is no whole number, you have to have 0 as the whole number coming back. If there is no numerator, 0, and if there is no denominator, it'll be 1. So let's take a look at some examples of this method call. 5 3/4 minus 6 5/8 should return this broken up into a string that looks like this. The whole component is 6, the numerator is 5, the denominator is 8. Okay, and it has to be in this exact format, especially if you're in my class. The format of this, the spelling, everything, the spacing needs to be exact because we're going to run some test cases on it that are automated. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. This one's kind of special. -3/7 minus 20. So the whole component is clearly 20, but there is no numerator, so it's 0. The denominator is 1. Remember, denominator being 0 kind of doesn't make sense, right? A 0 denominator is not a number. Okay, so let's take a look at maybe this last one. 27 21sts. The whole component would be 0, numerator 27, denominator 21. All right, I think I understand how to do what it's asking for at least. Let's go to Eclipse and try to build this out. Okay, so what we have here, if you're just looking at this, I'm going to maybe make this a little bigger. I'm going to close my package explorer and my JUnit so I can kind of have some more space. So if you're looking at this for the first time, maybe you can pause this video. This is what I'm going to stick with for how to parse the input into 3 pieces. Now you could use a scanner and you could do it really fast. I'm just going to use substring and index of because I think that's a more it's a more ubiquitous concept across coding languages than scanner is. So I think this is probably more useful for you, especially if you want to branch out into other languages. So I'm going to use substringing and index of, and I'm going to continue to use that strategy here for checkpoint 2. Okay, so here's my general idea. Here's what I'd like to do. So I would like to say there's going to be a string called operand 2's whole component. And it's going to be the result of some function that I haven't yet built, and it's going to be called find whole. Okay, find the whole component of operand 2. That makes sense? So I'm going to abstract this out a little bit. I don't know how I'm going to find whole just yet. We'll build that in just a second. But I'm going to kind of just find each of these 3, and I'm going to kind of export this work to somewhere else. So now I don't want operand 2's whole. I want operand 2's numerator. How about just can we just assume that means numerator? And then let's say find numerator, like find numerator on operand 2. And then I'd like to find the denominator of operand 2. And let's just say denom, just to save some space. So once I've done this, now remember, I haven't written these yet, but I know that once I get them, I would like them to come back as, maybe this is going to be checkpoint 2's answer. Checkpoint 2 answer is going to consist of a string that looks like this, right? Whole followed by operand 2 whole, followed by a space, followed by numerator, colon, followed by, and then I can go down here. I'm allowed to do this. Followed by operand 2's numerator. Oh, no, it's not. It's just a variable name. Operand 2's numerator, followed by a space, and then denominator, colon, followed by, no space there, followed by operand 2's denominator. So are these things defined yet? No, of course not. They're not. So operand 2 whole, operand 2 numerator, and operand 2 denominator right now are just kind of not ready to go yet because we haven't built these functions yet. But we know that once we do build them and they work correctly, this is how we would like to use them, right? So in case you're wondering, and a lot of people ask me this question in my class, you're allowed to jump to the next line in a declaration or an assignment after a concatenation. So that's kind of a nice little hint, right? So I can't actually do that just any time throughout this process. Like I couldn't just do it down here, just to let you know, right? Or actually, this didn't have a problem. Maybe I have a misunderstanding there. So you can actually, I usually do it after a concatenating operator. So let's go ahead and move forward then. So we have this big long string that we're going to return, but now we got to build this functionality. So I'm kind of done using the shortcut. We know Eclipse can build the method headers in a shortcut way. So let's see here. After it says to fill in the space below with any helper methods you think you'll need. Well, I do have an idea for a helper method. It's called find hole. Okay, so it's going to be a public static. Now you can use the shortcut if you want, but I'm going to practice doing this. It's going to return a type string. This is going to be called find hole. And what kind of parameter does it take? String. I'm going to call that string str. Okay. So there are three kinds of inputs I could picture operand 2 being. I could picture it being a mixed number. I could picture it being just a fraction. And I could picture it being just a whole number. We need to kind of consider these as we go, okay? So let's build some functionality for if the input here is a mixed number. So let's say if it's a mixed number, what's it going to contain? Well, it's going to contain one of those underscore thingies, right? So it's just I'm just going to write this up here. For example, how about 3 4/5, for example, right? So if it's a mixed number, it's going to contain this character. Okay, so let's kind of go ahead and do that then. So if our string contains, you could use this, and you just pass in a string that you wish it, you're wondering if it has. If it does contain that, then it's easy for us to see what the whole number component is. It's the stuff before that, right? Now, by the way, it could be like, a really long whole component. So basically what we want to do is grab the substring all the way from 0 up until the index of this little underscore character. So we can just return that right away. We could say return the string that came in, the substring, beginning at 0 all the way up until the string's index of that underscore character. Okay, so take a look at that. That maybe have been a little bit fast, like head spinning especially for a new programmer. So let's just take a look. So if it contains an underscore, I know I'm looking at a mixed number, and I'd like to grab everything up until the underscore. All right, so then let's do it. It's the substring beginning at index 0 all the way up until the index of the underscore. And remember, on this side of the index within the substring, this doesn't get grabbed. Okay, just to kind of let you know, it does grab 0, but it does not grab what's here. So you can see what it's going to do. It's going to grab the 0th, and then all the way up until, and it'll stop before it hits that thing that you've mentioned. Okay, so I have the whole component. All right, so that's cool. So this should work every time, as long as the user doesn't type in anything bogus, and we're not really dealing with that right now. So as long as we know things are coming in the proper format, this should work. So how about we're dealing with just a fraction? Okay, so if it doesn't contain that then, so basically what would it look like then? We got to distinguish between something that looks like this and something that looks like just this, okay? So if it contains an underscore, it would hit this. Now, neither of these contain an underscore. So what's it going to look like if it's a fraction? Well, if it's just a fraction, then it's going to contain one of these, right? So basically, let's go ahead and build an else if, okay? Actually, okay, so what we're going to do here, 30 seconds left in this video. I'm going to have to go ahead and continue in part 2. So pick it up right away in part 2 here in just a second. You can see in my upper corner, I do have 20 seconds. So we're going to have to build some cases for when we're looking at just a fraction, which is easy to detect, right? Because it has this slash. Otherwise, we know we're looking at a whole number, right? And we want to return the entire thing. Okay, so let's see you in video 2. Check back in just a minute.